start this review, let's talk about the absolute disservice that we never got an official Powerpuff Girls Halloween special. I know there was a 2016 show, but we don't talk about that here. When it comes to the original Powerpuffs, we got a Christmas special, yet no Halloween episode. And sure, we got Halloween-adjacent episodes with Boogie Fright, Abracadabra, Speed Demon, Powernoia, and even Super Zeros, because, you know, the girls dress up in costumes, and dressing up in costumes is something you do on Halloween. But leave it to the comics to swoop in and save the day. During the original run of the series, DC released issue 31, the first attempt at a Powerpuff Halloween comic, involving the Gangrene Gang blaming the girls for their own Halloween pranks. However, that's not the issue we're going to be talking about today. Though it is a really good comic, I highly recommend looking into it. Maybe we'll talk about it next year. After the 2016 show, there have been plenty of comics made for the Powerpuff Girls franchise. Not only for the 2016 series, but also for the original. You can tell this because they're using the original logo. Usually these comics would be handled by DC Comics due to their connection to Warner Brothers and by extension Cartoon Network. However, this comic and plenty other recent Powerpuff comics have been helmed by Dynamite Comics, who seem to be known for a lot of comics based on popular franchises. Released in October of last year, this comic is the Powerpuff Girls' latest attempt at a Halloween special. So let's see how they did. This is the Powerpuff Girls 2024 Halloween special comic. First off, there are 3 different covers to work with. One with the girls dressed up as witches on broomsticks, one showing the girls fighting some kind of evil electricity monster.
Is that supposed to be the Phantom Virus from Scooby-Doo?
Which does not appear in the comic, and the cover that I got that resembles the art style of the rest of the comic, with Buttercup smiling menacingly behind a scared Blossom and Bubbles, huddling up together out of fear. With that, the comic begins with our superpowered trio out trick-or-treating, all the while the boogeyman watches from behind a hedge.
Oh, kind of like Halloween.
What's kinda like Halloween?
The movie, Halloween, with Michael Myers, standing behind the hedge while stalking those 3 girls.
Oh, you see, I wouldn't have gotten that because I don't really watch a lot of horror movies.
Well, do not worry. That is why I am here. There are plenty of horror movie references and I will jump in to point them out.
Anyway, as Buttercup corrects Bubbles that she's not a vampire-spider hybrid, she's supposed to be a vampire, a very buff vampire by the way they drew her muscles, she notices the boogeyman is following them, but Blossom checks and it seems nobody is there. They go to the home of Miss Bellum when all of a sudden she is grabbed by the boogeyman who then chases after Bubbles into a closet.
In yet another reference to Halloween.
But as Blossom and Buttercup swoop in to fight off the monster man, the pages start to crumble. Literally, revealing that this is actually part of a comic that Buttercup is working on for a Halloween comic contest they're holding in town. And it seems that her and the other girls are holed up in a spooky hotel for the time being while she works because Buttercup really wants some peace and quiet while she works on the comic.
Which will be the main horror movie parody for the comic, The Shining. From the patters of the floor being parodied on the cover, the bathroom door scene, the twin girls in the hallway, the sentient hedge maze animals and even the name of the story being The Sparkling. I never in a million years would have expected to live in a timeline where someone decided to make a Powerpuff version of The Shining, but here we are.
After shoving her sisters out of the room, Buttercup starts a new comic, this time taking place in their home while the girls watch TV and the professor works in his lab. When in that instance, a floofy red substance crawled out of the TV.
Which seems to be a parody of The Ring.
Which turns out to be Princess Morbucks. After a little banter, we then go out of the story once again as Buttercup runs out of ink that she was getting out of Octi. Wait, a stuffed animal like Octi actually emits real ink? Do you think this is some kind of callback to the episode Octagon? Anyway, Bubbles and Blossom float into the room again, with Bubbles continuing to imply the hotel might be haunted. But Buttercup gets fed up with her writer's block and she takes it out on her sisters, pushing Bubbles into the bathroom. Blossom and Bubbles try to get Buttercup to do something together for Halloween night, but she is still so insistent on finishing her comic. Not fazed by her stubbornness, the other two begin trying on some clothes they find in a trunk. But then, the painting on the wall starts talking to them, revealing himself to be him! Blossom and Bubbles spring into action and fight him, but again, Buttercup is just too swept up in her work to pay attention to any of this. And I love how Bubbles declares that that's proof that the place is really haunted, because Buttercup doesn't want to fight. If anything, I'd agree with that logic. While Blossom and Bubbles fight off him, who turns into his awesome giant monster version of himself from Speed Demon, awesome callback, we see Buttercup's newest comic is a very realistic looking one. depicting the three of them trapped inside of a cage while Mojo Jojo rides the unicycle, telling them that only one of them will survive.
In a pretty obvious parody of Saw.
But before she can figure out what exactly happens in the trap and what they'll have to do to escape, Buttercup realizes her sisters are nowhere to be found. She hovers around the hallways and ends up in the hedge maze outside the hotel. Easily fighting her way through a lineup of monsters in the maze, she confronts him who has her sisters in the bumbling witch's cauldron. But before he can do anything, she takes him out with one major hit of eye lasers. However, by the next page, it seems all of them have miraculously disappeared. The other two girls telling her that there were no monsters and they were just getting ready to go trick-or-treating. Buttercup deducing that all the events must have been in her head, while her sisters think that she's just crazy. And so the comic ends with the girls finally checking out of the hotel, with the desk clerk telling them to come back soon. The girls, especially Buttercup, reassure her that they will never be coming back, while the clerk says that she never really left, showing Buttercup in an old black and white picture on the wall. Ooh, I don't get it.
It is another reference to The Shining.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So that was the Powerpuff Girls 2024 Halloween comic, and overall, it's pretty good. I don't know if it's as good as the original 2002 Halloween comic, but it's pretty good in its own way. The story is very unique, with Buttercup trying to create her own Halloween comic, so it's kind of like a Halloween comic about Halloween comics. I think the only thing that I didn't really understand was a lot of the horror references, because, I'm not really that into horror movies, so having those explained to me was pretty helpful. The artwork is pretty good, if not a little bit scribbly, but I think in fairness that actually works to the comic's advantage, because it's about Buttercup trying to make her own comic. Kind of like in the episode Bare Facts, where it shows Bubbles' point of view and everything's drawn with a Crayola crayon style. As for how Powerpuff fans will feel, I think they'll enjoy it for the most part. There's enough Powerpuff callbacks and enough references to the original series, and enough fun original material for them to enjoy this comic as a whole. So as a Powerpuff Halloween special, it may not be perfect, but it's certainly good in its own way. So that does it for this review, but look forward to the next Powerpuff Fanboy review, coming whenever, where we're going to be talking about the original Powerpuff Girls shorts that were made for What a Cartoon before the series was officially made into its own proper show. But until then, I'm the Powerpuff Fanboy, I fanboy over Powerpuffs, and you just listen.